Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. I'm your host, Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and today's show is Viruses, 5G, and Frequencies with Peter Webb. Peter Webb is an expert in radionics and is totally in tune with nature and what creates life. I'm very excited to have Peter Webb on the show today to talk about viruses and 5G and how frequencies play a bigger role than you've been taught. Now, understand something, everyone. There's a lot going on in the world today, wouldn't you say? Okay. All right. So what should we be scared of? 5G more or the coronavirus? Well, let's look at it this way. Viruses are innate. Okay. Viruses are a dead material. Viruses will react on the environment that they go into, only if the environment they go into is a low frequency like the virus itself. So a healthy person is not going to be affected. Don't believe me? Take a look at the stats. Take a look at who has actually passed away. It's been somebody sick, very sick, or somebody very old and sick. So the reality is that more people will die this year of the flu than the coronavirus. Now, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But the thing is this. Do not believe the media when the media, 95% of the media is owned by only 6 corporations. Now, that's not a fair playing field, is it? We know that Trump just sued a big part of the media for their slander. So understand something. Can we manipulate the world through the media? I'd say, what do you think it's called? It's called herd mentality. Now understand something. 5G is 60 gigahertz. 5G being 60 gigahertz, is not 3G. And understand something. We know, and science has proven, that when you're dealing with oxygen, which is O2, 2 oxygen molecules, they share electrons. And with 60 gigahertz, it causes these electrons to spin in such a way that when you breathe in the oxygen, if you're not a healthy person, your hemoglobin cannot take up the oxygen and you're going to fall flat on your face. And who can live without oxygen? That's the question here. And understand something. Could the 5G be creating the coronavirus? Or because guess what? Frequency is everything. You can take a look at the food you eat, the people you hang around with, the things you drink. Everything has a frequency. Did you know that everything you eat and drink leaves the body and the only thing that stays behind is the frequency? Now think about this. There was a guy named Tesla, and everything he developed was dealing with light and frequency, and it was about healing, and it was about free energy. And then corporations came along, and we have all these frequencies, and we have, between our lights and our frequencies, they've all been negative. And they're actually bombarding our body and not feeding our body. So these are some things we're just going to touch on today. But we're going to be talking about how to protect. How to protect yourself against these man-made frequencies that are bombarding us. And you may not know it, but guess what? Isn't it kind of funny? The invisible, which is your thoughts, which create frequencies, are the most powerful part of healing or creating disease in a human being. Isn't that something? So understand something, that we are frequency beings, and the frequency that we're around the most will decide our health. So with me today is one of the top experts, in radionics and in nature and in also agriculture. And his name is Peter Webb. Peter, how are you today?
I'm just fine. And what you've said is absolutely true. I was approached by a large company to put oxygen into lakes and sewage treatment ponds. And we used radionics, and we put the frequency of oxygen into a body of water, and it increased the amount of oxygen in the water. And then we learned that everything needs oxygen. So from that point where we used the oxygen to break down the waste in water. In fact, just last week we set up another 4,000 lake in India to clean the water with oxygen. And there's 55 million liters of raw sewage a day going into that lake And with radionics and oxygen, we can keep that water pristine, clean, with no odor or anything. It becomes a playground for the local people. So it then led me into, wait a minute, animals, their digestive system, the ruminants, all depend on oxygen for the bacteria in their digestive systems to break down the nutrients. And this is how we moved into the area that we're in today. And of course, as we go along, we started out with just basic earth magnetic lines and electricity, because what we have to understand, the magnetic fields of the earth, they go deep into the core of the earth, but they also go up into the atmosphere, basically to the height of gravity. And they move, they travel. And that's how a lot of frequencies can ride on those pathways of energy. So by finding that the alternating current coming in on the power lines was attaching to those magnetic fields, and then you create an electromagnetic field in the livestock barn. Primarily, we were looking at dairy at the time. And we learned a lot of things from these lines. If they crossed through where the head of the cow was, it caused hormonal problems. And if we moved it into the back half of the cow, it created breeding problems. And so, we've moved on with it now to where we are. And
Peter, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Whether this is a cow or a human being, we're talking about the same thing. When we're talking about living microorganisms or mammals, which we are, whether it's a cow or us, it's the same thing. Now, can I backtrack just a little bit? So you're cleaning up this lake in India, and you're using frequency. Now, what are you using? Are you using for Vitalizer? A Revitalizer?
It's a Revitalizer box, and we're putting in a combination of frequencies, biphotons, oxygen, hydrogen, and other elements to speed up the cleaning up of the water. And actually, it's interesting because every day we get a feedback. 10 was the worst smell. In 3 days, it's down to 5. So the last time we cleaned this lake, it took 10 days to eliminate all of the smell coming off the lake. What we know for a fact now is we can't survive without the bacteria in our body. Cows can, pigs can, actually plants, even corn. There are bacteria that work within the silks, all parts of the plant, inside the leaves, they're working. And of course, at the root zone, the corn is bringing in CO2 and converting it into sugar and putting it down to the root zone to feed the microorganisms at the root zone. So you've got this dependency on the microbes depend on the corn, and the corn depends on the plants. And the same thing factors in with the human body.
Can I ask another question, Peter? Don't mean to cut you off, but the reality is everything comes down to a frequency, and mankind could actually use negative frequencies to disturb the bacteria in the soil, in the plants, or in human beings. Am I right or wrong?
You're right, because a lot of the pesticides used today actually destroys the living organisms in the soil.
And it's the frequency that the pesticides are giving off. So everybody, I need to get this. You can say, oh, this is toxic. But the biggest toxic part is not the physical part. It's the invisible part. Am I right or wrong, Peter?
You're right. And I'll give you an example. We've seen farms where they've had their storage of chemicals. On one side, the driveway, and on the other side is the house, where these geomagnetic lines run through. They're part of the Earth's grid system. And they pick up the resonant frequency of the pesticide and put it into the cells of the people. And invariably, they get cancer or some other ailment that seems, that these frequencies can have a real detrimental effect on the health of people and animals. So in this world we live in, it's like a sea of different frequencies now, because they're coming from radio, TV, satellite, radar, electricity. Um, even the smart meter on the end of your house now, it's run by frequencies to read the meter every day. And if you have plants, trees around that smart meter, they invariably die because the frequencies kill them. And this is why I think when we were looking at those fires in California last year, I think that was a part of all the radio frequencies, whether G4, 5, or cell phone or radiation from radar, made that uh, plants so dry that when they got on fire, they just exploded. And this is
If I can say something, Peter, a friend of mine, Del Bigtree, who runs a show called Highwire, and he is it's basically it really is about autism, vaccination, things of that nature. But anyways, he lived in California, and the area where he lived in, they went 5G in a lot of areas, and part of it was in his near where he lived. And when they went and did a booster, there was a spike, there was a spike, and what they believed is there was a sparking right off the I don't understand it, right off the wires, because the power was not being controlled, which they jacked it up, and it sparked it, and it just everything went on fire.
Yeah, and this is my biggest concern today is with the 5G, the 60 millihertz, whatever it is, it's actually creating heat on our bodies or on the leaves of plants. So it's definitely going to interfere with the health of those plants, and this is why a group of people in California now say the maximum they got is 10 years and they won't be able to grow anything, which is pretty serious when you start. And this is the other thing. We're looking for this high-speed
Download, high speed download.
download, yeah, but nobody is looking at what it's going to do to the food that we eat, because it's we got a woman in Australia that sent us a video of the people putting the 5G mast on 300 meters from her house. And the next morning she went out and she stood in the driveway and the bees were falling out of the sky dead. And she said all the grasshoppers were dying and the birds were all on the ground under the light standards. And 10 days later, she said she went out, it was just a dead zone. There wasn't a sound of a chirping cricket or a bee or birds or anything. And when she dug in the soil, all the earthworms are gone. They were all dead. And this is where we just realized that in Wisconsin, where we work with dairy farmers, right now, virtually every dairy farmer is having a problem with water. And there's something tainting the water from these frequencies going through the soil. And we think it's linked to 5G because it's going so deep into the soil. It's not like this stuff stops at the surface of the ground. It's going hundreds of feet down in the ground, and then it's picked up on this magnetic lines and they move. And when they started this one 5G at the airport, the cows literally stopped drinking. There was a 300 cow herd, and they stopped drinking, stopped eating, and stopped milking. And the son walked into the barn and he said, "It smells like gasoline in the barn." And what it was obviously these frequencies coming from all of the radio antennas is picking up the frequency of oil or gasoline, or it could be at the airport, it could be in a gas station, but those frequencies are being carried miles through this guy's barn. And we had to rush to come up with frequencies to counter that. And but we thought we had it all finished, that we the next day the cows went up 41 pounds of milk, and we're coming back to normal. But then we're still getting this fluctuation of where they wouldn't drink the water, and this seems to be a common trend all through dairy country right now. And so we've now come up with another batch of frequencies that we're putting down 200 feet into the ground to counter what's going through the ground. And the water is just, we use another term of water being energy. It had a vitality of about 10,000. And within a few minutes, it was back up to 100,000 when we took this the frequencies coming in. And the problem with 5G is it's a short wave. So when we use the 4G, you have a big band, a wave band. So it didn't affect plants and other living things, the bats and this kind of thing, like the 5G does. It's a very short millimeter, and it totally goes right into the bee or any small insect. It's small enough to go right into them, and that's why they can survive in that type of environment. So we've, and of course we've been looking at a number of things. When people made the comment, well, it could affect male sperm and female eggs. Now we got proof of that, because we have a dairy farmer that has 800 cows, and he sells breeding stock. And all his bulls this year, they don't have a viable semen to sell them as for breeding stock. And this is just the tip of the iceberg that we're trying to alert people to start thinking, how do we deal with this? Because if not, we'll be running short of food and everything else.
Peter, it's like this. Just know this, everybody. When you don't speak up and you don't hold the line, this is what's going to happen. 5G is going to come. There'll be lots of people that will perish that shouldn't have had to perish. There'll be farmers that were going to go under because crops aren't going to grow. They're going to lose their animals. I'm going to tell you right now, crib death is going to go up. There's going to be more going on. And then we're going to push back on it. But how much damage is going to be done because we allowed this to go on? You know what? Don't tell me that there's not an evil on this planet. There are people that have very, very dysfunctional evil beliefs that will control everything. These are the people that have been controlling everything anyways for probably hundreds of years, their families handed down. And the reality is that when you get power hungry, you get stupid. It's always about power and controlling the masses. That's why they call it on your TV programming, everybody. Well, you've been programmed. Do you even know what freedom is? Everybody talks about home of the free, the brave. Well, how brave are you and how free are you actually? When we know that 5G is coming, we know the science is all there. But you know what? There's people like me and you, Peter, we're talking about this, and everybody's just looking like this as like it's just another show, another movie. Well, you'll find out when you start losing your breath. You'll find out when your bacteria in your body become disrupted and you can't stop microorganisms for viruses or bacteria or things that you used to be able to just take into your body and your environment could just deal with it. But now you can't deal with it anymore. So that's the reality of it. What do you think, Peter?
Well, that is absolutely true. We've gone so far away from what nature was created in. Everything was DC current. Nikola Tesla said he could power the whole planet from the electricity within the universe, whether it's in the core of the earth or in the atmosphere. And our bodies were designed to be a DC current, and we were supposed to walk on the soil that's DC current. But this is not anymore, because everything has got the AC frequency on it, man-made frequencies that are not really as compatible to the human body. You know, a lot of people say, well, like to go into the woods and just ground out and feel nature and feel good. But with the threat that's coming, the Tesla company is putting up, I think it's 65 satellites every 2 weeks. So they're putting up over 100 satellites a week into the ionosphere. And when they all are up there, there'll be 55,000, and you'll never see the stars again. All you'll see is these satellites glistening in the sky.
You know, Peter, if I can say something, you know what they had the nerve to do? They actually had to call it the Tesla company. Tesla would never have done that. And I want everybody to know something, that Tesla did an example, and he used free energy to power the whole of New York. And you may not know that, anybody, but actually when that happened, the problem they had was I guess where the generator was, it blew up. But the thing is he said, I know how to control it. Just let me do that. Well, understand something. Have you ever heard of Rockefellers? Well, the Rockefellers made sure that he was shut down and he wasn't going to give free energy to the world. And I want you to know that Tesla, the greatest man, the smartest man in the world, died in a hotel room, penniless. They destroyed him. Okay, so understand something. Do not let them destroy your family. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so through this, on my journey, helping people in the environment, we had to create the technology to shield the home, and then the farm, and now we have the personal ones that you can wear.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the ones for the home and for the farm. So that would be your Revitalizer. And everybody, if you want to see the Revitalizer, you'll see it on my website. And if you want to know more about it, you can call me. My extension is 5. And understand something. If you've got a farm, you've got farm animals, or if you've got a property and you want to increase the oxygen on that property and create a bubble environment of health, Peter, why don't you tell them about the Revitalizer? Okay. What it would do for...
Well, here it is.
Okay.
Right in front of you.
Tell them what it would do for your animals, your children, yourself, your pets, your plants, your soil, all the way around the board.
Okay. The main thing it does, it because of everything coming at us, we've had to create we call it a shield or a shell. And it's like we take an eggshell and we capture the frequencies, the frequencies that create that eggshell, and then we put it out as an outside shell on the pendants, the protector.
Yeah, and if you can, here, I'll show people. Okay, so here's one right here, everyone. And they come in like 4 different colors. You'll see them. They're called Bodyguard on my website. You know, we're talking about a man here, okay, Peter Webb. He's a genius. And you'll see that when you start wearing a bodyguard, you can wear it here or wear it anywhere on your body. But the reality is it's 5 feet up, 5 feet down, 5 feet all around. It's shielding you. But you'll see a difference in your thyroid. You'll see a difference in your skin, how you sleep. You'll feel calmer. You'll know it's working. And then we have this, and this is called a protector. And the protector you can put right in the middle of your home, and it'll protect the whole home. Now you're going, that sounds crazy. Well, guess what? Does it sound crazy? What's going on with the 5G and how the 5G can go for thousands of miles and it can whack you right off your butt? Well, don't you think that if there's negative, we can have positive? There's good, there's bad, there's negative, there's positive. So understand something. If you don't understand frequency, you don't understand life. So why don't you tell them about the Revitalizer? Thank you, Peter.
Well, the Revitalizer is the box. It can do up to 5,000 acres, and it's based on frequencies. And by sending out a frequency of carbon, each Revitalizer will pull in 20 tons of carbon from the atmosphere and sequester it in the soil. Now realize that part of our bodies is carbon, but in the soil it is what microorganisms live on, plants use. It is the glue that holds the soil together to stop soil erosion. And of course, by putting in the oxygen, and we're putting that in now 200 feet down as well as 200 feet above, it enables the bacteria and the life in the soil to go deeper. But here's another thing. When you put carbon in the top soil, it cools the soil and it allows moisture to wick up. So moisture is being drawn up to the plant to keep the plant going in dry periods. And it's something that we have to do because under the current agriculture, the soil is it dries out, the moisture is evaporated off, and under the chemical approach, it burns organic matter to produce nitrogen, but it gases off CO2. So with this technology, you're actually bringing more CO2 and all of the other greenhouse gases, because you've got hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, methane, nitrogen. They're all being assimilated back into the soil as food for the soil and food for the plants. And that's the way we do it. And of course, then you get a much more dense, nutrient-dense crop, whether it doesn't matter whether it's tomatoes, potatoes, cucumbers, or corn. There's more nutrient value, and it can be shown up like corn can be around 65 pounds a bushel normal, but when you use this system, it can get up to 75 to 80 pounds a bushel. So there's a lot more nutrients in that grain. And the other thing with the oxygen, it stops the molds, like the funguses that grow in plants, the Fusarium, vomitoxins, aflatoxins, and penicillin molds. So
well, even in the house, though, it stops it in the house. It stops it in a human.
Yeah. So these things, and what we do, and it is strange, but by putting this frequency in, we found it in the water that we're running 20 parts per million of oxygen when normally it's only 8 to 10. And the same thing is happening in your home. You've got a higher level of oxygen. And of course, we know that oxygen is effective in fighting viruses. And of course, then your crops are healthier, your animals are healthier. And overall, then your cost of doing things become less because you're not, we have people growing cucumbers and peppers and those kinds of crops. Their application of pesticides may be 1 or 2 because the government regulates it. But normally, under normal conditions, they could be up to 40 or 50 applications. And this is where you're finding so many chemicals being sprayed on apples and everything, cauliflowers, you name it, it's all been hit with some kind of insecticide. So the food that we're getting is what I would call, it has no nutritional value. And let's face it, you buy a lettuce and it's a few days it's gone rotten, the same celery or anything else. Food should stay. We've got products that we've grown, potatoes and garlic and onions. They're just like the day we harvested them, and that's months ago. So, back when I was growing up as a kid, when we didn't have fertilizers, we used to pick all the apples and put them in a spare bedroom on the floor. They would literally stay good right through to March or April. And the food had a much better shelf life. It had more nutrients, and I think that's where the older people had a healthier diet, and they've lived a long life. But under today's conditions, I can't see that going on the way we're living. But we've had one lady that had a pendant, and her husband had terrible cold. He was coughing all the time for 3 weeks,
You're
and she
talking
never
you're
got it.
talking
So
about the bodyguard that I just showed. This right here,
yeah,
right?
yeah, the
Yeah,
bodyguard. Yeah,
yeah,
she never got that cold at all.
yeah.
And we found that um, health-wise, the people wearing those bodyguards are far more healthy. Actually, we did a, well, I didn't do it, but one of my distributors was working with live blood analysis. That's using a dark field microscope to look at your blood. And everyone that wore one of those bodyguards, their blood was perfect. I mean, there was no clumping. Those people that wasn't, their blood was clumping into clumps. And this is this is a precursor of disease, cancer or whatever. So when you, and of course, um, you have healthy cells. And of course, in the first things we learned in radionics was how to put in the polarities of positive and negative and in between 0 point, so that nutrients could be taken into the cell, waste could be taken away, and and uh, and your body stays healthy. Um, we can we've one of the things we put in everything we do is a picture of the summer sun, full sun, and that's the reason we can get vitamin D into your body is through the natural sun. Although if you're, I think everybody should be taking vitamin C and vitamin D in this time of year because they're not getting enough sun. But most things that we use, we even use being able to use um, pure supplements like different vitamins and minerals that we buy. We can pick the frequencies up and put them into the pendant and the protector. So there's an enormous amount of things that can be done with just frequencies. It's so simple, and it comes right back to even we had to go put this bubble. It's basically a bubble. So we've got it now. So it's 15 feet on each side of the body and 15 feet in the ground. And the reason we go into the ground is to ground your body, to drain all of the electromagnetic pollution from the AC current that's coming into your body. We need to drain that out to keep the body a healthy direct current, which is what nature created us to use. So going back to this thing of the protector, when it's actually putting the oxygen in the house, but the water coming through the water lines is going to be putting oxygen into that. So there is a lot of things that we can do to help people, and this is, the reason why we're doing this show, I guess, is to enlighten people that there are ways and means of helping our environment, and the same with the farmers. It's we run into one of the big things today is these transponders around the cows' necks, and the cows are just dropping dead with heart attacks. One farmer, he even put the transponder on his bull so he wouldn't go into the robot milker, and he walked up the barn and he took a heart attack and died. So, this stuff is very invasive, and this is why we're doing the work that we're doing to help these farmers to have healthier animals and a healthier lifestyle.
That's so important. And everybody, I just want to show you, just so you know, just in case you want, we have a money back guarantee, but these are the colors we have, right? We got pink, we got turquoise, we got dark red, and then we've got really strong blue, like a strong blue. So you might want to check those out. And why do we include all the colors of the rainbow in the pendants?
Actually, we put the colors of the rainbow in everything because every mineral and every vitamin that we consume has a color attached to it. Iron has a dark red, oxygen has blue, every mineral. So to be able to, for our body to assimilate all of the nutrients, we need those colors. And this apply. Look, when you take a garden hose and spray it in the sky on a sunny day, you see a rainbow. And that's the colors that we have to get into. Well, it's in our body, but we also put it in the Revitalizer to allow the plants to be able to assimilate the nutrients more efficiently. The other thing is half of the minerals are positive, they have a clockwise spin, and half a negative, they have a counterclockwise spin. And that's why we need this figure 8 configuration so that those minerals can be assimilated. If not, where we were dealing with the transient voltage coming in on the power lines through the cattle barns, it was a clockwise spin. And so consequently, it shut down half of the vitamins. So if you didn't have vitamin E, if you had selenium, for argument's sake, and you only had one polarity, then you wouldn't get the vitamin E assimilated. And the same as iron. Iron is essential in our bodies and plants to carry oxygen. It's part of the transportation of oxygen through the bloodstream. So that's the importance of being able to balance the spins on and everything. And of course, now we know that 5G, one of the things it does is lower the oxygen. And these people that have been dying with on the streets in Wuhan, their skin is blue because there's a lack of oxygen in the bloodstream. There's not enough to keep the hemoglobin going. So we're talking, we're heading into this, it seems like we're like a bunch of lemmings heading over a cliff right now. We're pushing all ahead on 5G. Trump, he just says we want the best 5G in the world and we want the best vaccines in the world. You kind of wonder what kind of world he's living in. But we have to start doing things for ourselves. We can't count on governments or doctors or anybody else. I mean, I had a kind of a diabetic for many years, and I researched it, and part of the problem is fatty food you eat. We go out, we go to a restaurant, we buy anything fried. I mean, it's cooked in soybean oil. That's not the best oil in your body, but you get a fatty liver. So I've worked on the frequencies of, I think it was berberine, and in one day I took my blood sugar from 10 down to 5.
And you put the berberine frequency into the bodyguard, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I also took the berberine, and I'd been doing this for months and months, trying all these different supplements that were supposed to do that for me. None of them worked. But as soon as you get the right match, and it's amazing how quickly. Even I've been on high blood pressure for years since we've been wearing these pendants. I've been totally off all blood pressure medication. My blood pressure runs 110 over 70, 80 all the time. So,
Peter,
these are things.
Peter, if you don't mind, why don't you let everybody know what's in the bodyguard and also what's in the actual beautiful protector that they can put in their home? And is there a difference between the two? And would it help with the oxygen levels and sleep and other things, or even just mood? Yes.
Yeah, it's they're both programmed with the same frequencies because so we started off with one machine is putting in hydrogen. But then on that we're putting in water too, which has been treated with sound and colors. And then we have another machine putting in the oxygen. And in that machine, we've got the stars, the sun, the moon, all the frequencies of that. Because we are people of the universe. That's where we are. And then we get into the different supplements that we use. We also put in a helium to make the water in our bodies lighter, so it's more assimilable into the cells. And of course, we've got the whole Dinshaw color chart. We're putting in biophotons from it's a lamp we bought from Switzerland that was used in this medical lamp. And the biophotons they're lights that our body must have. And that's pretty well. There are many other things that are going into it, but those are the main ones that we do. Oh yeah, then we're also taking, we use two trees that we take the energy from. One is a horse chestnut and one is an oak. And that is used to ground the electricity out of the body. So we're putting all these frequencies actually grounding the stuff that our body don't need. And actually, what I think is, we found that some supplements, the radionics will only pick out the ones that are going to benefit anybody. The other ones that are of no value, they leave them out. So, and then so then we use also glass. But, glass is an amazing thing for storing information. Like every computer, the chips are made out of crystal, and that's what we're using, the crystal. So, and actually one drop of water can hold more information than all the computers in the world almost. Water is an amazing, wonderful product for information. So then we come back into the whole aspect of supporting the microbacteria, the microorganisms in our body, because they're, as you said, probably, for every human cell, there are 7 bacterial cells. And these bacteria in your body can cause you to have positive attitudes or negative attitudes. They basically, even, that's the curse of the things. If a bacteria hooked on sugars, they'll get you to want to eat more and more sugar. So you've really got to be firm with that and not let them guide your life. You got to. So what I did, I put in. We had to put we had to put in a frequency to protect all of the bacteria in our digestive system from the invasive frequencies that are coming in. So, you've got 40 years of developing this technology to where it is today, and we have to still keep moving as the energy changes, the frequencies coming at us are changing. So we're constantly able to counter those and then feed them back into every protector or every bodyguard or every revitalizer that we've ever built. So we can reprogram constantly.
So I need people to understand that. So it's not like this is going to lose its charge or ever wear out, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And when something new, like a new frequency or something else, or they come up with something else, you're able to actually imprint that frequency in every protector or every bodyguard or every revitalizer anywhere around the world, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're always keeping them up to date with the environment that we're living in, because it's changing too, and we have to accept that. So
So tell me, can I ask you a question too, Peter?
Yeah.
So what it's actually doing is it's creating an environment that viruses and so we know we have good viruses, good bacteria, bad bacteria. We have yeast, we have mold. So this creates the environment to help to either to create a proper environment to rid us of those negative viruses or to see them morph back to the way they were. It's like somebody who has a bad mood, you could get them into a good mood, and everything has got to do with environment. So am I correct about this?
Yeah, you're right, because bacteria have the ability to transform from an aerobic to anaerobic. Anaerobic are the ones, they're the fermenters. They're the ones that cause disease. So we want to keep the body oxygenated because that's where the aerobic come from. The bacteria that feed on oxygen are the ones we need in our body. The ones that ferment us, we don't want them in our body. They cause things like acid reflux and all kinds of nasty things that we don't need. And from feedback we get, we've had remarkable success with even acid reflux. People have said after they wore the pendant, it was gone. And all it's doing is changing the alkaline acidity, alkaline content of the digestive system, and helping your body to detox and cleanse on a daily basis, because we have to cleanse. Cells are regenerating, cells are dying, so that everything has to be kept clean. And this is what our whole purpose here is, to keep your body functioning as like in turbo mode, rather than when you're down, depressed, and not happy.
So basically what you're doing is the more that we move away from nature and we bring in technology, you're bringing the frequency of nature back into our homes, into our bodies, into our animals, into the soil, into our food.
That's exactly what we're doing. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, it's been a challenge, but we keep working at it, and we're very happy with the results that we're getting right now. So I think that's pretty much all we need to cover, is it? Or
Absolutely. I think that you've covered it really well. And I just want everybody to know something, that when you watch this, make sure you put your questions down below, because we're going to be following this up with a Q&A, okay? And the Q&A is going to be on Tuesday, March the 17th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we're going to be able to take your questions live, okay? I'm going to have my phone in hand. You're going to be able to actually come on Facebook, YouTube, or Intercom and send your questions in live when I'm on with Peter, and we'll take them. But if you want to put your questions down below right now, we're going to take those questions and we're going to answer every question. Please do not be afraid to challenge us, okay? Do not be afraid to challenge us, because you need to challenge everybody that has anything to do with your life, your family's life, and your health. And understand something, okay? Health is wealth, all right? And understand something. Does a corporation have a beating heart? Can you get in touch with a corporation? Understand something. We want your phone calls. You're allowed to call us with any question you have. You're allowed to ask any question you want. Whether you want to believe this or not, the Doc of Detox, the International Training Institute of Health, we believe that we are all family, okay? We believe that there is no one to hate. We believe that the world will always be at war with itself as long as corporations are ruling it. And corporations are ruling the government, okay? Because if the government was really protecting us, how many things would they not allow in the stores? How many things would they not allow be put into our bodies? You're going to need to understand something. Until you learn to love, respect, protect, and honor yourself first and foremost before anyone else or anything else, and to know that you must make everybody earn your trust, and that nobody has authority over you. Nobody on this planet. And that's the bottom line. I just want to know one thing, and I want to know that you mean something. I want you to know that your children mean something. I want you to know that your children's children mean something. Where's your voice? Because your voice matters. So speak up, but take personal action to create the perfect day for yourself and your family. And I want to thank Peter Webb for being on the show today. Peter, thank you so much, because guess what? You're a genius. You're a lovable genius, sir.
One of the things that we should also look at is getting our children wearing the pendant when they go to school, and they're being surrounded by every virus that every kid brings into school. You'd be amazed at how it improves their health, that they come home smiling and happy rather than having the runny nose and disappointed. So children has to factor in as a potential for this too. So anyway, that's just where we are.
And understand something, everybody. We'll give you a money back guarantee that if you don't think the pendant is becoming your best friend to the end, then just return it. And we'll stand behind everything that we do. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the show today. And just understand something. Your life matters and you matter. Do you matter? Are you selfish enough to know what you need to keep you healthy and your family healthy? When we're talking like this, that word's not so bad, eh? So understand something. It's how you look at everything. So look at everything as an opportunity. And listen, you can only grow consciously. So let's open up our minds, okay? Because where our minds go, our body follows. Thank you for joining me, and don't forget to join me, like I said, Tuesday, March the 17th, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Write your questions down. God bless, and have the best day of your life. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.